are in a good condition, yeah, Amin. And before the event starts, like we are doing before, I will announce who are the lucky one who get the prize from DREaM presented by Office of International Affairs, Universitas Gadjah Mada. And this is for whom that deliver a question in day 2 program, yeah, last week. Okay, for the first one, who are the lucky who get the prize from DREaM is Mbak Liana An. Mbak Liana An, are you here today?
Hi, I'm good.
Ah, hi. Okay, congratulations, Mbak Liana.
Thank you,
Thank
JM.
you. Yes. Maybe where are you come from?
I'm from University Tun Hussein on Malaysia.
Oh,
You.
Malaysia. Oh, maybe I want to ask you something about the tourism place in your country on your city. Is the tourism place is open for public?
Currently we are having our third wave COVID-19. So
Hmm.
we are not allowed to cross border. Although a local border also we are not allowed to do that. So
Hmm.
like me myself, I'm in Johor.
Hmm?
So the only way I can do is within my my state in Johor lah. But then also some of the places at the in Johor they have red zone, yellow zone, green zone. So
Hmm.
we are strictly are not allowed to go to the red zone for,
Okay.
for to ensure that we are not
Thank you, Mbak Liana, and congratulations once again for get the prize from DREaM. And the second one, who are the lucky one, is Mas Jusman Al Sahmal. Wah, Mas Jusman, are you here? Do you copy my voice, Mas Jusman? Okay, I think Mas Jusman is still sleeping for now, yeah? Okay, congratulations, Mas Jusman, yeah? You get the prize from DREaM. And the third one, who are lucky to get the prize from DREaM, is Miss Solange Franchil. Are you here, Miss Solange? Do you copy my voice, maybe? Okay, Miss Solange, I think same as Mas
I'm
Jusman,
here.
yeah? Oh,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
having trouble with my internet. Wait a minute.
Oh, okay, okay. Can you copy my voice? Do you hear my voice, maybe?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so maybe I want to know about where are you come from?
I'm from Brazil, but I'm living in Indonesia for almost 2 years now. I'm living in
Oh,
Palembang.
oh,
Yeah,
so you are now in Palembang.
in Palembang. I'm taking my
Okay.
master degree with UNSRI, Universitas Sriwijaya.
Oh, Universitas Sriwijaya in
Yeah.
Palembang. Okay. Okay. How about the COVID case in Palembang right now?
Well, lots of cases right now.
Hmm?
Yeah, and the government are taking care, like are dealing with the situation, but lots of people they don't wear masks.
Hmm.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And yeah, we try to do our best, but we know that we all need to do something. So
Yes. So how about the tourism place in Palembang or in your city? It's still open for public or it's closed?
it's closed. Like I've been here for 2 months now, and
Hmm?
I wanna visit some place, but I cannot. But
Okay.
it's okay. I can wait.
Okay, okay. We do hope that you all in a good condition, ya, Mbak Solange,
Yes.
ya. Yes,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much and congratulations for get the prize. And the last one for the one who are lucky is Mbak Katrina Sakares. Yeah, are you here, Mbak Katrina? Mbak Katrina?
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, Mbak Katrina, where are you from?
Oh, I'm from Philippines.
Philippines.
From Philippine Normal University, Manila.
Oh, University Manila. Okay, thank you. As I'm asked the person before, How about the tourism place in your country and in your city? It's still open for public or it's closed?
Oh, the tourist spots in the GCQ areas, the
Mm,
general community quarantine in our
mm,
country is open.
mm.
However, those areas which are high risk in COVID-19, they are still closed and not open for the
Public.
public
Yeah.
or for the people.
Okay. So, congratulations once again for Mbak Katrina who get the prize from DREaM. Yeah, congratulations. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That's the list of name that lucky for to get the DREaM prize from DREaM presented by Office of International Affairs. Yeah, congratulations for the 4%. And before the program starts, we remind you to all participants to fill in the attendance list on Google Classroom. Yeah, and we remind you to type the questions on Zoom chat section because the selected question will be invited to deliver question live to all the speaker, and also the selected question will get the DREaM souvenir presented by Office of International Affairs Universitas Gadjah Mada. And we remind you again who have joined together in the Zoom room meeting to please be able to mute the audio first. And if the device or the connection support, please turn on the video during this agenda. Thank you very much and be happy to join this event. Thank you. Yeah, once again, ladies and gentlemen, before our program starts, we remind you to all participants to fill in the attendance list on Google Classroom, yeah, and reminds to type the questions on Zoom chat section because the selected question will be invited to deliver the question live to all the speaker, and also the selected questions will get DREaM souvenir presented by Office of International Affairs. And we remind you also for all participants who have joined together in the Zoom room meeting to please be able to mute the audio first. And if the device and connection support, please to turn on the video. Thank you very much and be happy to join this event. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon from Indonesia, ladies and gentlemen. My God bless us all, and we do hope that you are in a good condition. Yeah. First of all, we would like to welcome to Your Excellencies Deputy Director for Strategic Studies 3 at Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy, Tourism and Creative Economy Agency. Your Excellencies Director of BD Strategy and Special Project GREP Indonesia, the Honorable Acting Chairman of the Australia Bilateral Committee in the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Vice Rector for Cooperation and Alumni, Universitas Gadjah Mada, Head of Office of International Affairs, Universitas Gadjah Mada, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you again to the 12th UGM DREaM International Virtual Short Program 2020, Resilience Amidst Global Pandemic, on today, December 4th, 2020. And this is the day 3 for the DREaM program, yeah? Due to a COVID-19 pandemic, DREaM 2020 conducted virtually while still adapting to the existing DREaM content that has been implemented for the last 11 years. And on today's meeting, we will have a special discussion with experts that will share knowledge and experience about the tourism and also about the other commercial industry. Well, ladies and gentlemen, to start today's agenda, we would like to invite the Head of Office of International Affairs, Universitas Gadjah Mada, to deliver a welcoming speech. Dr. Imade Andi Arsana, please.
Thank you very much, Mas Adit Matur. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon from Indonesia, or good morning probably in some other part of the world. We are almost towards the end of DREaM, but I think everybody is still are very happy, I think, and congratulations for the 3 students who have just got prize from us. Congratulations. I would like to say hello, selamat datang kepada Bapak Andre Noto Hamijoyo, matur nuwun. Terima kasih Bapak sudah rawuh di acara kami. Thank you very much for being with us, the Deputy Director for Strategic Studies 3 at Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy, Tourism and Creative Economy Agency. Juga saya ada di sini Ibu Rivana Mezana, thank you very much. Ibu Director of Business Development, Strategy and Special Project from DREaM. Just for information, Ibu Rivana, I'm a very loyal customer of DREaM. I'm so happy to have you here today. I will not compare DREaM with any others. I think DREaM is the best. The third one, I have a very good friend here, Pak George. How are you, Pak George? Thank you very much for coming and for being with us. All right, so thank you very much, Pak George. Pak George is the third speaker. Pak George is, or George Iwan Marantika, his full name, is the acting chairman of the Australia Bilateral Committee in the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you very much once again. So, ladies and gentlemen, we understand that we are talking about, or we are in the middle of a global pandemic, COVID-19. So what we are going to do here is not to see the global pandemic as the disaster, but as an opportunity for change, basically. So yesterday, for example, we had a very good session with a number of global academic leaders from all over the world, and we talk about how to hijack the global pandemic. So I think this is closely relevant to what we are going to talk today. I'm so happy we are going to have 3 speakers here. And last but not least, I would like to say hello to Ibu Poppy, my good friends from the Faculty of Social and Political Science. Ibu Poppy, how are you? Thank you very much for moderating the session later on. We are going to hear from different parties how they are dealing with this global pandemic in the government sectors, in the private sectors also, maybe in the academic sector somehow. Ibu Poppy probably can share how we change, how we adapt, and how basically we do something to win this battle. So without further ado, I think that is what I wanted to say. Once again, thank you very much for being with us, everybody from all over the world. And you know, I know that it is not very easy to be in front of the screen for a very long time, and I think I really appreciate your passions also to be still with us. With that, once again, I wish everybody good health and have a productive discussion. Thank you very much, Mas Adit.
Thank you very much, Pak Andi, for the warm greeting. Take care of your health, Pak Andi. Yeah?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And next, to stimulate and to engage the discussion, here we show you the video about how COVID-19 affecting business in Indonesia. Here is the following video.
Digitalization is a must, especially for small businesses to be able to survive and compete during COVID-19 pandemic. And for that, now is the time to carry out digital transformation so that small businesses can rise and even go forward.
The Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy, Wisnu Tamakusubandyo, revealed that in July, 56.8% of the small-medium businesses are currently in bad conditions. Only 14% admits that their business is running well. The ones that survive are the ones who keep up with the digitalization. Bank Indonesia's Governor Barry Warjio stated that digitalization is the key for small businesses to survive amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. According to him, the advanced SMEs are those that can adapt to the new normalities during a pandemic. The digitalization trend is marked by a note from Bank Indonesia that e-commerce transactions in the second quarter of 2020 rose by nearly 40% to 383 million, compared to the first quarter of 2022 of 275 million. This shows that people who did not shop online have started to target e-commerce. From all sources, IDX Channel.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as I said earlier, we will have a discussion with three invited guests. The first speaker, we have Deputy Director for Strategic Studies 3 at Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy or Tourism and Creative Economy Agency, Mr. Andre Noto Hamijoyo. The second speaker, we will have a Director of BD Strategy and Special Project GREaM Indonesia, Mbak Revana Mezaya. And the last speaker or the third speaker, we will have Mr. George Iwan Marantika as an acting chairman of the Australia Bilateral Committee in the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The discussion will be led by a moderator up to next 1 hour and 40 minutes. Before the discussion begin, let me to introduce our moderator first in this afternoon session. Yeah. Our moderator today is Dr. Poppy Sulistianing Winanti. She earned her bachelor degree in International Relations, Universitas Gadjah Mada, and she continued her master degree in International Relations, School of Public Policy, Korea Development Institute, Republic of Korea in 2002, and continued again in master degree in International Relations, London School of Economics and Political Science, United Kingdom in 2005, and completed his doctoral degree in politics, University of Glasgow, United Kingdom in 2011. And now she serves as a Vice Dean for Cooperation and Alumni and Research, Faculty of Social and Political Science, Universitas Gadjah Mada. Ladies and gentlemen, before we welcome to our moderator for this afternoon session, for all participants who have a question to our speakers, please kindly type it on Zoom chat section. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to our moderator for today, Dr. Poppy Sulistianing Winanti, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mas Riandika, for a very nice introduction. And good afternoon, Pa Andi. It is my pleasure to be here and then moderating three great speakers for this afternoon. And how are you all, the participants? I've understood from Pa Andi's explanations that you're coming from all over the world, and I hope that you are well and very enthusiastic to follow the afternoon session. In Indonesia now is in the afternoon, but then obviously probably different kind of time zone for you who are somewhere else. But anyway, we are in the current situations, as Pak Andi mentioned earlier, that we are in kind of, embracing the pandemic. But then the topic for the short course now is a very optimistic in terms of the resilience amidst the global pandemic. So that's why we would like to invite the three speakers to discuss the topics on this, and hopefully will boost our spirit to overcome the current situation. The first speaker is Dr. Andre Noto Hamijoyo. Currently, he's the Deputy Director for the Strategic Studies 3 at the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy. And Bapak Andre, good afternoon, Pak Andre. Hopefully, Pak Andre is already with us now. Pak Andre will be talking about the overcoming the crisis, learning from the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy. I hope Andre is already with us. Hopefully. And the second speaker will be Ibu Revana Mezaya. Ibu Meza, good afternoon, Bu Meza. She's currently the Director of the Business Development Strategy and Special Projects at GREaM Indonesia. And Ibu Meza will be talking about the GREaM strategies in supporting Indonesia's economic resilience during the pandemic. And then last but not least, we're going to listen to the presentations and discussion by Bapak George Iwan Marantika. He's currently the acting chairman of the Australia Bilateral Committee in the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Pak George will be speaking about the vital role of the Chamber and Commerce to stimulate economic sector responding to struggles in the time of the pandemic. So we have these three speakers. Then I would like to invite first Bapak Andre, if Pak Andre is already with us. Pak Andre, are you already with us, or good afternoon? Hello. Oh, Mas Riandika, can we just forward to the next speaker if Pak Andre is?
Yes, yes, of course, of course.
All right. So my apologies. I hope that Pak Andre is already with us. But then otherwise, I would like to invite Ibu Rifana Mezaya. Ibu Meza, would you like to be the first speaker for this afternoon session? And I'm sure that the participants will be willing to hear from your experience, especially Grabs, as Pak Andi mentioned earlier, is one of the promising sort of like companies now in Indonesia. But I'm sure also, as many other companies at this moment, Grab is also struggling because the pandemic has already affected many sectors, including obviously the Grab kind of business. So would you like to please give us for 20 minutes for your presentations? Time is yours, Ibu Meza.
Thank you so much, Ibu Poppy and Pak Andi and everybody for the kind words about Grab and for welcoming us in your esteemed event today. For me personally, this is a great honor because actually my grandfather graduated from the Gajah Mada University back in 1963. He was actually the first one from his small village in South Sumatra who went to college and graduated from your university and then met my grandmother there. So I wouldn't be here without UGM. So thank you for that. And it's an honor for me to share the experience of Grab, particularly in this pandemic. And I would like to also welcome all of you who joined us from Indonesia and from the rest of the world. Hopefully all of you are safe and hopefully all of us are still passionate about learning from this difficult time. Because I think this year will provide us with maybe like a decade-long worth of case studies that can be learned by our, younger generation, next generation here on how to deal with this kind of challenge, a global challenge. First of all, please let me to share my screen, and please feel free to post your questions accordingly. So today, I've been tasked by UGM here to share about how Grab survived, but not only survive, but we actually would like to thrive together with the country through innovation that we can make in Indonesia. Knowing that not all of you are from Indonesia or the region, please let me first to introduce what Grab is. So Grab is actually was actually born as a ride-hailing app, but currently it's a super app that provides services for everyday needs, from food to the logistic delivery. And it is a regional app, so we are all in 8 countries in Southeast Asia. We have been downloaded by more than 200 million users. And we are actually housed to 9 million micro entrepreneurs across our network. We call them micro entrepreneurs because those who actually make a living from our platform, mostly they are self-employed and they got jobs from our platform through the orders from our customer. So we call them micro entrepreneurs who are self-employed. In Indonesia itself, we actually are here from Sabang to Merauke, from the most eastern part to the most western part. we are in 236 cities, and it's been a pleasure to serve the Indonesian community since our double down on the country back in 2017. We also serve legally 24 airports across the nation. So if any of you later on had the opportunity to visit Indonesia, we are there for you since the airport. You came in through the airport to Indonesia. So Grab, as I've told you before, we started as a ride-hailing app like Uber. But we actually acquired Uber back 2 years ago, and we've developed from there. Not only we serve ride-hailing, but we are also a food delivery platform, logistic delivery platform for the last mile. We also provide many new services in 2019, which made us a super app. From booking hotels to booking tickets and cleaning your houses or fixing your AC to actually telemedicine, the services are provided in our platform in one app. Now, let me go into the story of how Grab actually faced the pandemic together with all of you in 2020. So Grab has been committed to our mission for Grab for Good. We have been committed to support and ensure the Indonesian people can access the benefit of digital economy. And in this time, we continue our approaches as before, which is firstly working closely with the government and align with the government to implement long-term digital economy initiatives for self-employed workers. If you remember, we have over 9 million people that self-employed through our platform. And we also committed to provide the best platform and technology for small businesses and small traders, traditional traders, to grow. And in this challenging time, we are also committed to create innovative solution with improved and safety and hygiene to face our new normal. I want to introduce you to our family, the family that are living in our Grab ecosystem. In Indonesia, we serve millions of people that we call our family. Firstly are the merchants. The merchants here are those restaurants who register in our Grab Food platform, where users like me and you can order food from their restaurants, and the food will be delivered by our driver partners. So there is merchants and drivers. We also have agents. Agents are those who usually open a small kiosk like in the neighborhood or in traditional markets. We empower them to sell digital goods and access to financing capacity so that they can empower their community. Like they can sell airtime, they can sell, they can help their customers to open a bank account digitally and all that. And lastly, our family include, but not least, is the users, the hundreds of millions of people who have downloaded our app and kept providing jobs for these self-employed peoples, merchants, drivers, and agents. Now, why I introduced you to our family is because all of those people, all of the family that are in the Grab ecosystem were affected during the pandemic. In Indonesia, we didn't have lockdown per se, but we have something called the large-scale social restrictions. It were definitely necessary to slow down the COVID spread. However, it presented challenges to businesses across industries, like what Ibu Poppy had mentioned, including Grab in this context. Why Grab is affected? Obviously, because one of our main business is actually transport. So we support mobility of people from one point to the other. When the restriction was employed, then it means that the mobility dropped significantly. It means that the people, the user who gave jobs to those driver partners also dropped significantly in numbers. So that was a challenge during the early time of COVID. And at the time also, there were challenges in terms of how restaurants could not be open. So there was a question whether they can still serve their customer base. But we understand that this is a necessary step for us all to face COVID. In that situation, the very question that we ask is, what can we do to take care of each other? So we really refrain ourselves from asking about how the business or how is the loss or how is the profit. We really refrain from asking that question because we know this situation is hard for everybody. And we have millions of people in our family, in the ecosystem that are affected. So our first question as a company to ourselves as the employee at the time was, what can we do to take care of each other? So we actually are committed to employ this matter. So we innovate. Innovation is key. We promise ourselves, let's push ourselves to innovate. And then the second one is also important. Let's execute it. So whatever the crazy idea or the innovation aspiration that we had that we think can help us all face this challenge, it has to be able to be executed quickly because the pandemic was already there. It's not like a planned, next quarter is going to come. It was already there. By executing quickly, sometimes we don't know whether we made a mistake or we made something that is not perfect. What's important for us is learning. So the feedback loop has to be closed. We need to choose an action, we perform the action, we see what is the reaction, and then we measure the reaction. Are we doing the right thing or not? And then we repeat the process so that we can come up with innovation that can help us and the people who make a living through our platform to continue surviving this crisis. Having that mentality in mind, so in just 2 months after the first case was confirmed in Indonesia, we launched 3 new services. The first one is GrabMart, which is a marketplace for on-demand groceries. This was because at the time, people were encouraged to stay at home, so not even to go to the, to the grocery stores or the traditional market. So we feel like it will help the traditional market or the supermarkets or the mini markets if we can bring the customer to them through online or through our platform. And for our customers, it helps them to also limit their mobility while still providing their daily essentials. We also introduced Grab Assistance, where basically you can order any driver partner of Grab to buy anything you want, anywhere you want. You just say what you want them to buy, how much is the estimated price, and they'll deliver it to you. And lastly, we also double down on our hygiene and safety protocols for our fleets, both the motorcycle, the 2 wheels, and the Grab car or the 4 wheels fleet. So we employ a lot of things. This was the quick innovation in just 2 months. It was ideation. The idea was built, the execution was built, and it was within a short period of time. But we remember that having done this innovation, it doesn't mean that we can stop. We need to learn, continue the feedback loop to improve what we want to do for our family in our ecosystem. So through that process of learning, we learned that there are at least 4 pillars that we need to continue doing as our response and recovery approach at Grab Indonesia. The basis of this is the one below. We want to serve the customer, all the users that have been with us since the beginning, and we want to serve the public interest. We want to help the country, we want to help the community to deal with this COVID. We want to help ourselves to limit our mobility, limit our interaction, but still, moving the economy along. So these 4 pillars are here: improving hygiene and safety standard, protecting partner source of income, collaborating with government and businesses, and lastly, empowering the masses. I would just give you a snapshot on what we've done in these pillars since the early 2 months of learning. So for hygiene and safety, we employed basically a people-centric approach. We understand that it's a very new thing for us to learn about improving hygiene or safety as a community. We learn to, wash hands properly and all that. And so we actually revise and improve our first innovation in Grab Protect and employ the separator between driver and passenger, both in car and motorbike, to better serve the customer's mobility during this hard time. We also introduced a contactless delivery because of feedback that actually you can order groceries, but you also don't want to have contact, right, with the drivers that you don't know yet where they've been, for example. So we introduced that. And we also apply hygiene protocol for food delivery. And on the right side here, we also were committed to care about our employees, because Grab employs thousands of people as well in Indonesia as the employees. So the employees are the backbone who can make innovation happen and apply it in a bigger platform. So they need to be supported by staying connected and staying productive in this difficult time. The next one is interesting for me personally, because this is also based on the feedback of customers, that they appreciate that Grab can be their daily essential workers, delivering food, groceries, and medicines to their houses. But they are concerned, what about these Grab drivers partners? When they are waiting for orders, where are they? Are they in groups, or are they socially distancing themselves? So we developed a technology based on this feedback that could give warning to drivers whenever they are detected to be in groups. So we may remind them to do social distancing, and if they have repeated reminders and they still do it, they will be the account will be suspended. So this we already also consulted with the government. For example, the government of Jakarta at the time, who was employing the large social restrictions. Is this enough for them to help them break up groups in streets? So we have some feedback as well from them, and then we employ this technology as a commitment to hygiene and safety. Number two, the second pillar is very Grab and is very important to us. We want to protect the source of income of our partners. If you remember, my first point is that Grab's mobility service or transport business was highly affected because schools were closed, offices were closed, and then malls were closed. So people's mobility were reduced significantly. It translates into less order for transport. It translates into reduction of our partners' income, right? All these driver partners that are in our platform. But we also are committed. We don't want them to, lose their source of income. So it's on us to basically pivot to new normal necessities and provide them with new types of orders. Like I've shared with you before, we introduced GrabMart, where before the driver partners' majority of job is transferring people from one point to another. But with these new services, they can actually deliver goods and foods and groceries from one point to another. So they have substitute services to continue to gain employment. And this is also a new source of income for our merchant partners. So merchant partners who have, food or they can sell food through this platform. Or if they also sell groceries and daily necessities, they can also sell through this platform. And even we accommodate merchants from the most eastern part of Indonesia at the time where export were still banned. Their seafood was really famously good, but there was no export, so they didn't have any income. So we accommodate them to sell their eastern, deep sea seafood to our platforms to people in Jakarta. So we see that this is a kind of thing that we can make sure that our partners still have a sort of income. We also introduced a new service after the first 2 months of innovation. We introduced Grab Merchant app, where the merchants can manage their transaction even better. So this is a one-stop digital solution to manage and elevate their businesses. They can put promo here, they can put marketing here, they can manage how their income have been. We see that this is an innovation that can help them even elevate their business. Our third pillar is always collaboration. There is no one that can do everything alone, and definitely not Grab. So since the beginning, we collaborate with government and business to navigate this hard time. Just an example, Grab Health was a new service that was launched just in 2019. It's a telemedicine and medicine delivery services. But when COVID hit, we doubled down on Grab Health. So we know we had to accelerate its growth. Why? Because we want to help the government to deal with this health crisis. In the beginning, there was not a lot of testing yet for COVID. So we did collaboration with government where Grab Health could be the tele-screening, the first line of defense before people sought for testing. So they can do a telemedicine to do that. And if they have the recommendation to quarantine, they can do that without actually having to expose themselves to go outside. And Grab Health also provide a free rapid and PCR tests for healthcare workers and driver partners. It was also appreciated by the president, and by his support, we can actually develop the product even bigger. The one that we are really excited about is the government of Indonesia. Actually, one of the focus of the government for the economic recovery is to focus on MSMEs, or micro, small, and medium enterprises. So the government introduced this program called Proud of Made in Indonesia. So we participated. We are very honored to participate. And actually, we introduced several features only reserved for our local products. That collaboration with government inspired us to actually go further by empowering the masses. Empowering the masses here meaning we not only think about those who are already in our platform, so our family, but we all actually think about those who are not yet in our platform. Can we empower them during this pandemic? So it inspired our campaign of Terus Usaha. If you speak Indonesian, within this sentence is the word susah or hardship. But the idea is Grab as a platform, we want to turn this thing around from susah or hardship to terus usaha, or keep working, keep getting on your feet. How do we do this? Is by we actually welcome all the small, medium enterprise, the micro enterprises into our platform. We give them free apps and we launch online bazaar so that their product can be accessed by our user base, by our customer. They all also given dedicated platform to self-onboard. So they can actually go in and register their stores to Grab platform and start selling not long. And we also give them training and seminar, and we develop the platform, we better the platform for them to do this. By doing this, during the pandemic, we facilitated more than 450,000 new merchants to get into our platform, and they immediately can have access to new sources of income that they can tap into our user base to market their product. And there is also more than 32,000 traditional market sellers onboarded to GrabMart and Grab Assistant. So all the wet market that might not have been digitalized before, they are now, holding smartphone to sell their produce from market to customer delivered by Grab driver partners. We also collaborated on this initiative on traditional markets with 25 city governments, including the one where UGM or Gajah Mada University is in Yogyakarta. In Yogyakarta in particular, it's very exciting because the government is fully supportive. So they have a program called Sibakul, which houses small, medium enterprises local to Yogyakarta. So we work together with the government. We made a special tile in our GrabFood platform for we call it Jagoan Sibakul, or those merchants that are under the government program. So if people want to see or buy their local food, they can just click that, and all of those merchants there are supported by the government. And the government actually not only support by high level, but execution-wise, the government also support free ongkir or free delivery for these merchants that are under their program. So it can boost even or incentivize the user to buy from locally. So this collaboration actually is a very good example of how we collaborate with government to empower the masses. I think that's all from me. I think I would like to close it by quoting Pak Andi and Bu Poppy also before that the pandemic can actually be a source of opportunity for us to grow together as long as we want to keep innovating, we keep executing, we keep learning, and we keep taking care of each other. I think that's the idea. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bu Meza. It's a very interesting and inspiring kind of presentations. And I do believe that, as you say, that how then based on Grab experience, it turns like the hardship into something more useful, something more, collaborative. And that's the way that we have to handle with the pandemic. It's very interesting, Bu Meza. And thank you for the participants who have started to, use the chat feature to raise questions to Bu Meza. And later on, after we're listening to all the speakers, then I will get back to the participants, and then we can address the questions depending on whether we have sufficient time or not. But thank you, Bu Meza, for being on time and very inspiring. So I would like to invite Bapak Andre. Okay, Bapak Andre Noto Hamijoyo. Good afternoon, Pak.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us for this event. And I've already introduced you earlier, but I would like to reintroduce you again. Pak Andre is currently the Deputy Director for the Strategic Studies Stream at the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy. We have listened to Ibu Meza's presentation earlier, and I hope that we also can listen and learn from you. Especially, we would like to hear the government's kind of, views regarding how to overcome the current situations. And especially since Indonesia is relying on tourism, then the pandemic obviously has provided us with a very great challenge to our economic situations. So we would like to listen to Pak Andre's presentations regarding how to overcome the crisis, and then especially learning from the Ministries of Tourism and Creative Economies experience. Please, Pak Andre, time is yours. And as Bu Meza earlier, you have like 20 minutes for your presentation. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I want to share my presentations, the readiness of the tourism industry and creative economy after the COVID-19 pandemic. This is special for the 20th DREaM International Students Virtual Short Program 2020. I want to share my presentation. Okay. The outline of the presentations, we're talking about the global and national conditions due to the COVID-19, and the second is the conditions of the tourism industry and creative economy in Indonesia. The third is strategic plan of Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy 2020 to 2024. And the last but not least is the strategic plan of Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy 2021. The first, the global and national conditions due to the COVID-19. We know that the global and national conditions due to the COVID-19, how the GDP growth rate decline, especially in Asia Pacific. Indonesia also get a decline, and the conditions, we can see that how the global economic growth projections from the 2020 is minus 5.2%, and the 2021 projections is 4.2%. We can see the economic growth of Indonesia. We can see for how the GDP going down, and how from the last years we get the decrease on GDP. Economic impact from the COVID-19 in the Asia Pacific, we can see the travel and tourism jobs lost in 2020 already impacted 48%, 87.4 million, and the travel and tourism GDP loss in 2020 in 50%, and global arrival assumptions in domestic and international also decrease. If there is no improvement, yeah, the decreasing is higher. You can see. So the conditions due to COVID-19 in Asia now. The projection in 2020, the foreign tourist visits is 3.85 million from the target the 2.8 until 4 million. The foreign exchange 2.7 billion US dollar. The number of tourism workforce or people is 12 million. The export value of creative economy 16.2 billion US dollar, and the number of the creative economy workforce 17.5 million. We can see also the number of the domestic tourism in the movement 120 until 140 million. Then the contribution of tourism GDP is 4%. Value added of creative economy, we can see 1,124 trillion in the Indonesia rupiah. So the problems is the Indonesia's bargaining position is not as good as that of its direct competing countries in dealing with COVID-19. So it is related to the statement from Cahyanto and how the government respond in terms of handling an outbreak has a positive effect on increasing the number of visits and foreign exchange for tourism. We can see Malaysia, the total cases and the recent new day, and Singapore, we can see the graphic, Vietnam, and Thailand. So how the conditions of the tourism industry and creative economy in Indonesia? We can see Indonesia tourism, the occupancy rate, the hotel occupancy rates being declined. The domestic tourists also declined in 2020. The tourism arrival from January to December 2020 declined 70.57%. We can also see the airplane passengers. So in the domestic flight decline 69%. Also, the international flight declined 97.86%. Then in the impact of the COVID-19 on the hotel industry, you can see in the 2020, you can see the comparison with the 2018 and 2019. Like we can see in the red graphic, and is decline. That's also the impact of COVID-19 on small and medium industries in Indonesia. From the source of Ministry of Industry 2020, we can see SMEs industries get the impact of the COVID-19. The total is 1 million, and the creative industry is 30%. Also, the SME industrial workforce, the total 3.4 million, and the creative industry is 42.48%. To get for the fight for the crisis, there are economic stimulus programs from the government. The economic stimulus programs is 3.8 trillion rupiah. For the hotel and restaurant tax incentives, 3.3 trillion. For the airline incentive for the rapid test programs is 430 billion rupiah. And for the additional incentives to build trust and market interest. We also support for the Ministerial Partnership Support Program for Emergency Response. The first is health worker accommodation assistance. The Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy has facilitated a total of 2,357 health workers located in 11 hotels with a total of 1,408 rooms. The second program is the health personnel transportation assistance. This is the transportation for medical personnel, provision of transportation for health workers in collaboration with 5 modes of transportation. We also have Balasa. Balasa is the provision of staple and ready-to-eat staple and food assistance to tourism and creative economy workers affected by COVID-19. With the total is more than 300,000 pack. We also have a cloth mass movement with the total until July 2020 is 285,000 masks. So we also have a program to reduce the crisis because of the COVID-19. We have the program to assist creative economy, amidst. This is the programs that the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy cooperate with coordinating Ministry of Maritime and Investment. We initiated the Proud Movement Made in Indonesia in order to improve the creative economy and continued with the Bali Kreasi Lokal program. The programs dividing into 3 missions. The first is digital asset, how to improving AMSET through digital assets optimization, marketplace, promotion and sales through Gojek, Grab, Shopee, Tokopedia, Bluebird, Bukalapak, Blibli.com, GDID, Lazada, and more. And then the assistance is training, consulting, mentoring, coaching. We also have the efforts of the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy together with other ministry in the emergency response period for COVID-19. With the Ministry of Finance, we support for the exemption of income tax, the real income tax, the release of Minister of Finance Regulation number 44/2020 concerning tax incentive for taxpayers affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. We also have a task force for the accelerations of handling COVID-19 and the Ministry of Environment and Forestry. The description is the coordinating the opening of natural tourism areas, marine tourism areas, water conservation areas, adventure tourism areas, national parks, nature tourism parks, grand forest parks, wildlife reserves, geoparks, and non-conservation nature tourism areas, including botanical gardens, zoos, parks, safari, tourist villages, and natural tourism areas managed by the community on June 22, 2020. We also support for the National Economic Restoration Support plan in tourism and creative economy. The first is providing direct cash assistance to the the tourism and creative economy sector. This is very important for us. The second is bridging financing, tourism and creative economy working capital support scheme in the form of guarantee and loans through Himbara banks. We cooperate with the Himbara banks. The third is conducting more intensive socialization related to the implementation of PMK, the Ministry of Finance regulations number 44 concerning tax incentives for taxpayers affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. But until now, there is only 8% or 200,000 from the tourism and creative economy taxpayers who take advantage of this program. We still support this program, but not until now only 8%. So we're preparing a new ordinary in the tourism and creative economy sector. We're creating video documentations depicting the government's efforts to develop destinations that apply the cleanliness, health, safety, and environment, or CHSE protocol, with the following stages: compilations to the CHSE protocol in the form of educational videos and handbooks aimed at tourism business actors. Second, simulations of the implementation of the CHSE protocol, which also documents as material for soft campaigns and tutorials. Third, socialization and publications to the most domestic and international actors and communities through various channels. The fourth, destination trials, those who have implemented the CHSE protocol, limited meetings of ministry and agencies when the PSBB policy was relaxed. Now, the strategic plan of Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy 2020 until 2024. The strategic plan is paradigm of tourism development in the future, called RPGM 2020 to 2024. The main target of tourist arrivals from the RPGM from the 2015 until 2018, numbers oriented. Main target is the numbers of foreign tourists and number of domestic tourists. For the next RPGMM 2020-2024, the target is the quality tourism experience. The main target, foreign exchange and value added. Second, tourism, destination, industry, and community readiness. Third is HR capacity. The fourth is environmental carrying capacity. And the fifth is global international competitive tourism image. And the main values is first, sustainable tourism. The second is the quality of human resources. The third, experience or satisfaction. The third, product and service diversification. The fifth is technology adoption. You can see the tourism development framework and national creative economy, how the quality tourism experience we will support for the quality tourism experience for the tourism. There's this strategic plan of Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy in 2021. The strategic plan divided into the 8 based on the organizations of the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy. The first, tourism is restoration. The second is quality tourism and creative economy. The third is digitalization and digital sovereignty. D1, D2, D3 is the organizations divided in the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy. The D1 is how to developing effective, integrated, and relevant directions and policies for the advancements of tourism and the creative economy. The D2 is the how to increase human resources for paragraph who are superior and competitive in the digital era. The D3 is modernizations of destinations and infrastructure to increase the competitiveness of tourism and creative economy products. The D4, how to building and developing a quality and sustainable tourism and creative economy industry. The D5, making Indonesia the destinations of choice in Asia Pacific. And the D6, making Indonesia as a tourism center in Southeast Asia. The D7, build a comprehensive digital economy ecosystem for the advancement of the creative industry in Indonesia. This is the grand strategy macro level, how the deputy can collaborate to maximize for the target, quality tourism and creative economy. You can see in the middle is the research, management, controlling, and regulation. And how to divide the deputy for resources and institution, deputy for economic affairs, digital and creative products, the deputy for field tourism products and events, the deputy for marketing, deputy for industry and investment, and deputy for field development, destination and infrastructure. This is the national priority in 2021. Theme of government working plan of or RKP 2021, accelerating economic recovery and social reform. National development focus in 2021. The first is acceleration of industrial, tourism and investment recovery, national health system reform, social protection system reform, and disaster resilience system reform. You can see that the tourism is in the first national development focus, acceleration of industrial, tourism, and investment recovery. This is the highlights of activities as an efforts to recover the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The cooperatives, the first is the cooperative and the SMEs, small and medium enterprises. How to channeling working capital through channeling financial institution, banking, BPR, Pegadaian, PNM, cooperatives, business recovery and development assistance. This is the core. And the second is processing and trade industry, from rehiring and retraining of workers, productivity recovery, acceleration of import substitution industry, increase in exports, increase in government and state-owned enterprises spending for domestic products, logistic efficiency improvement, accelerate the operationalization, and etc. This is the industry transformation 4.0 and optimizing the use of digital technology. For tourism and creative economy is how to restorations of the domestic tourist market with airline ticket incentives, recovery of the foreign tourist market with sales missions and subsidized tour packages, organizing national and international events, acceleration of infrastructure development, hygiene and safety standards, restoration of tourism and creative economy businesses, facilitate access to finance, tourism supply chain cooperation, SR placement, certification, training, and creative business startup growth. For the fourth, it's increasing investment for the acceleration of licensing system integration, acceleration of large-scale investment realization, provision of bottlenecking services and aftercare investment, expansion of positive investment lists. So we can see the 2021 COVID-19 pandemic recovery plan, tourism and creative economy sector. The recovery of domestic tourist market is the fastest step to encourage tourism recovery, supported by airline ticket incentives and the arrangement of national holidays. Support for organizing national and international events, government and business, MICE, sports, arts, and culture. Recovery of tourism businesses and the creative economy through facilitating access to finance, supply chain cooperation, and training, certification, placement of human resources. The recovery of the foreign tourist market through sales missions and subsidized tour packages supported by partnership with airlines or wholesalers. Accelerate development of tourism infrastructure and creative economy, implement hygiene and safety standards, and diversify tourist destination. Increasing the growth of creative business startups supported by mentoring as well as the development of production and market networks. Thank you very much. Together keep Indonesia. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Pa Andre, for the explanations. And I guess as we have learned from your presentation earlier that Indonesia's government has already setting up several kind of policies in order to mitigate the impact of the pandemic for the tourism, and especially to enhance what we call as the creative industry. So I also noticed that there are already some participants that raised the questions to you, but later on we're going to get back to the participants. But then I would like to invite our last speaker for today's session. I would like to invite Bapak George Iwan Marantika. Pak George, good afternoon, Pak. How are you? Okay.
Good afternoon. Thank you
all
very
right.
much.
It's good to be here with you, Pak George. And Pak George is currently the acting chairman of the Australia Bilateral Committee in the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And I think, as you can guess from his position at this moment, that we would like to hear from Pak George, especially the role of the Chamber of Commerce to stimulate the economic sector. Pak George, the time is yours. You also have like 20 minutes for your presentations. Please, Pak.
Thank you very much. Well, let me introduce myself again. Thank you, Dr. Poppy, and thank you, Dr. Madandi, good friend of mine, who invited me into this very distinguished panel and also distinguished program of international students in UGM, right? So I guess you're all coming from all over the world. My focus is basically in the area of what I am involved in, and that is with the Indonesian-Australian economic bilateral engagement. And in that angle, I am the chairman of the Australia and actually New Zealand Bilateral Committee of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or called KADIN. And I'm also the national president of the Indonesia-Australia Business Council, which is, for practical purpose, the Australian chamber in Indonesia. So representing Indonesian and Australian companies in Indonesia. And so, obviously, Australia, as a neighboring country, is a country that is just down under from the south coast of Java and southern coast of Indonesia, is a strategic partner, strategic economic partner of Indonesia. There are within the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry at the national board level, we represent the regional boards, which is 34 provinces, which they represent almost all of the cities and regencies in Indonesia. So we have a breadth at a national level, all the way to provincial, all the way to cities and regencies. And our purpose, based on the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, is regulated by law. There's a bylaw that it's bylaw number 1, 1987, which is an act of parliament, which basically enforces the role of Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or called KADIN, in the Indonesian economy, meaning that it is the representation of businesses throughout the Indonesian economy. And so therefore it advocates the interests of business, and it promotes the interests of business, and it facilitates the interests of business as part of the stakeholder in the whole economy, or one of the main stakeholders in the whole economy. Business meaning mostly private, but the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry consists of 3 arms: the private sector, the state-owned enterprises, and cooperatives. So it is a holistic approach towards our stakeholder representation. And so coming back to the question, and I believe I was asked to present basically the role of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry and related to stimulate the economic sector during the time of this COVID-19 pandemic. Well, we have basically initiated and played a major role in several issues. I will talk to you about the Australian issues because it is significant in terms of economic bilateral, but also I will talk to you about the overall economic perspective. Obviously, the controversial omnibus law, I think that some of you have heard about, the streamlining of Indonesian regulations is the main proponent is the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or KADIT. So we are not, embarrassed or ashamed to promote it, and we are promoting it. And the president did ask the chamber to be part of it, and it is currently now in law. So it's law, and basically it is now following through on the particular guidelines. Yeah, but from the Chamber of Commerce perspective, it is a good law. It took a courageous government, such as the government of President Joko Widodo, which is courageous, to take forward this streamlining. And it is with the purpose of making Indonesia more competitive, and much more important during this time of pandemic, to be much more competitive for investment and business. Because the reality of this pandemic will probably take 3 to 4, if not 5 years, to fully recover in terms of growth perspective. If you take a look at the 1918 Spanish flu, it's called the Spanish flu, it took about 15 years actually for the global economy to recover, because that was a global pandemic. This is going to take a bit. I mean, we are grateful we have these technologies such as Zoom, and other technologies that we can communicate, but that might shorten the length of the recovery, but the recovery will take a while. So it will not, it's not, the real economy will take a while. So we feel that what the government has done to streamline regulation will promote investment. And we are seeing it right now. I mean, there are major deals happening. You see investment from Kimberly-Clark of the US, $1 billion takeover of Softex. So how you figure Softex is worth $1 billion, right? So that is what it is. So they took it over, Kimberly-Clark took it over for $1 billion. Australian medical group Aspen will be building hospitals, and they just signed a deal with West Java for over $1 billion investments. So these type of policies is what the Chamber of Commerce and Industry promotes and supports, and also partake in working with the Indonesian government in order to achieve or make these particular regulations and policies successful. Now, in the context of what I do, my focus is on Australia. And during the pandemic, on the 5th of July, the Indonesian government and the Australian government ratified a 10-year negotiation, which is a treaty, an economic treaty called the Indonesian-Australian Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. That took 10 years to negotiate. And I was part of that process since 2012. And obviously, even during COVID-19, we were able to ratify it. It's a funny story. Before ratifying it, we were in Canberra with the president in February, including its various ministers. And obviously, you had the Minister of Hartarto, you had Minister, and you had the Minister of Transportation, Pak Budi Karya. So, but coming back from Canberra, everything started locking down, and COVID hit really bad. So we were all wondering whether this thing will continue. But on the 5th of July, it was ratified. It is part of law. So what that allows is basically between Indonesia and Australia, there is already happening an economic convergence. It is Indonesia and Australia is the two largest G20 countries in the Southern Hemisphere. And this convergence involves trade, investment, and human capital development. Amongst the three, probably the most strategic is human capital development. If it related trade, it's agriculture, it's buying cattle, eating cattle, consuming cattle, wheat and all that stuff. But also but the human capital development is most strategic, and investment. But the human capital development is most strategic. And I think that relates to what this this forum is about. It's human capital development. Now, in regards to that, I'll share you how strategic Australia is for Indonesia. During this COVID-19 situation, the biggest economic support that we have around the world is from Australia. They just announced last week a $1.5 billion economic support for Indonesia for its national economic recovery. So that is the biggest from a multilateral and bilateral perspective. And so it is strategic in many ways. Now, if I could go into the slides that if you could share the screen. Does the administrator have the slides that I shared, or no? Okay, well, in that case, let me probably, as the administrator is probably working on the slides to share on the screen, I will continue on. Yeah. So there's 4 particular aspects that we are supporting: agriculture, education. Well, obviously, as you know, Monash University is going to be the first international university in Indonesia, and that is part of what we in the chamber support and endorse. And it is an icebreaker for many other international universities from all over the world to be in Indonesia. Now, how that's going to relate with the education sector, I think it will be a net positive, and because the focus on education is a focus of complementary. Indonesia has a big education base. Obviously, UGM is the Ivy League of education in Indonesia. You are a part of the Ivy League, but it has a big base. So if you could share the slides again for the administrator. Yeah. Is the slides on? Okay.
We're still working on it, but
okay.
Wait a minute. Yes, hopefully
it was on for a few seconds and then it was off. So yeah, so that's one of the biggest part of what we do, and obviously we promote and advocate it. Now, what evolves out of education that we see as part of the Indonesian-Australian engagement is creating an ecosystem beyond the education, but the trickle-down effect of education, which is technological development. With technology development, meaning an ecosystem for the digital economy. We were talking about the digital economy just recently, and GRAB is part of the digital economy. And we hope that this ecosystem will support Indonesia in building its industrial 4.0 base. You know, Dr. Andi and I were engaged many times, and you might say, and early on we were promoting AI. Before anybody was talking about AI. I don't know if Dr. Andi is still on board here, but early on with UGM, we were promoting blockchain before anybody was talking blockchain. And that is the type of leapfrog that we want to achieve. And Australia is one of the countries that Indonesia wants to engage in that ecosystem. So I'll go straight to the first slide if you can. Yeah, for the administrator. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so that is the ecosystem we're looking at. An ecosystem of Indonesian Australian knowledge, we call it the knowledge economy. It's not just about education, it is also about certification, it is about innovation, incubations, and it is about what our friend from GRAB is talking about, is startup. You know, GRAB was a startup. I believe a startup that was incubated out of Harvard University, if I'm correct, right? Now this is and obviously it will create small, medium enterprises. So this is the type of role that education has in Indonesia with our education base. UGM is the leader. You have Gamma Techno, you have INO. Those are companies that are leaders in Indonesia's digital economy. And I think everybody is following suit. So the engagement with Australia, and we hope with the rest of the world, this could be a model, is this ecosystem that we want to achieve, in which the Center of Excellences of Indonesian and Australian universities are involved in innovation, but not innovation and research that is going into the filing cabinet, because you see a lot of that, but innovation and research that are applied and creates incubation and creates small, medium enterprises. That is where we're looking at. And beyond that, we want to involve industry so you have an exit strategy. Because the problem with innovation if you look at the Stanford model, Google. Google was born out of Stanford. Yeah, and again, I'd like to share Gamma Techno. I know is born out of UGM, but then beyond that, to scale, we need to have industry in order to build the business to become a unicorn like what Grab is, right? And so that is where we also want to involve the two business sectors of Indonesia and Australia. And if you look not just from a market angle on the left side of your screen, obviously Indonesia and ASEAN third market is very big. Third market means global market. But we also want to look on the right side of your screen if you see how we can patent, how we can raise seed capital, how we can raise angel investors, even have an exit strategy in the stock market such as the ASX. And that is where the whole ecosystem then becomes alive. You trigger the ecosystem. And this is one of the main pillars of the Indonesian-Australian Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. And we want leading universities like UGM to be part of this. And UGM again is leading. I mean, I know for a fact that Monash is working with UGM on the mosquito innovation, right? The dengue fever, yeah, dengue, yeah. Now, that will lead to pharma. That will lead to development of pharmaceutical industry, and that is the type of thing that we're looking at developing with Australia, and that is the ecosystem of the knowledge economy that we're looking at, and this is what the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry and IBC. So there is a what they call a business partnership group between Chamber of Commerce, Indonesian Australian Business Council, and the Employers Association. And on the Australian side, similar, where they have the sister chambers and the sister employer association. And we in IBC, we also have a sister organization called AIBC. So it is this framework that we are working on and we are executing on. And we're beginning to see the fruits early on. We are seeing investments from Australia in the digital economy. Groups such as TAP Group, which is a bit smaller than Grab, but it has a lot of traction in Indonesia's digital economy, and it's fully invested from Australian investors, as an example. Now, secondly, for the second slide, yeah, if you can, yes. So one other thing that we have been supporting, and this is related to economic recovery, because the economic recovery, the government of Indonesia wants to promote export. Yeah, export of small, medium enterprises. And so outside of the digital, which obviously our colleague from the Ministry of Economic Creative Economy has said that the government is digitalizing or onboarding small, medium enterprises into digital platforms, we also want to promote export. And so just last week, the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry and IABC announced the establishment of the Indonesian Trading House Australia. And this is a trading house that is going to promote, we are promoting the small businesses in Indonesia to be able to export to Australia, and vice versa, Australian business to be able to do business in Indonesia. Well, we have offices in Jakarta and in Sydney. And Jakarta is obviously in our Menara Kadin, or the Kadin Tower in Jakarta. And also we have offices in George Street in Sydney. So, but the unique thing is this, and this is probably something that will be duplicated around the world. We are working with BKPM, with Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Small, Medium Enterprise and Cooperatives. But the unique thing of this is, in order for this to succeed, and if I welcome you to go to the website, and if you see our team, it's Indonesian diaspora in Australia. So this is now, you might say Indonesia Diaspora Incorporated. so this is, I think, one factor of not just Indonesia, but I think from all of our friends on this forum. You're coming from all over the world. You have diasporas. I mean, we have Indonesian diaspora in Australia and all over the world. Obviously, if you're coming in from France, you have diasporas here in Indonesia. Now, this is what we are trying to do with the Indonesian Trading House Australia, is to work with our diaspora as an asset. They are an asset Indonesians living in Australia, which is over 150,000 around the whole continent of Australia. Cities such as big cities like Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, but we even have diaspora in Albany. If you know Albany, it's like, you know, in Indonesia, maybe Klaten or something like that, right? So it's way out there, you know, in the southern tip of Australia. But we have diaspora, and the diaspora is attracted to do business with its, you know, the country that that they were born in or they came from. And so we are working with our diaspora to promote Indonesian goods and services into the Australian market. And this is a pilot project that we are working with the Indonesian government. And if it works out, we will be doing this in Europe, in the US, and around the world. So the next and last slide will be, the next and last slide, if you can, for the administrator. There you go. Now, back to COVID. COVID, yes, we have to work very hard to promote export, investment, to get the domestic economy going again, consumption. And again, the issue is this pandemic, in reality, is going to take a while to recover to a 5 to 7% growth. We'll see what happens. But recovery is not just economic recovery, but actually people at the very grassroots level feel that they have they're able to sustain their living. So that is one angle. The next angle, and this is what we've done with UGM School of Medicine. Actually, we worked with the University of Gajah School of Medicine, and this we started way back in April, actually, just when the pandemic began to start hitting. And that is, again, an ecosystem approach towards the pandemic, but looking at it from an industrial relations. So if you look in management theory, there's what's called industrial relations. And industrial relations relates to, in this particular angle, organizational behavior. How you're going to have to behave during the pandemic. Because the pandemic is not just about a virus, but it's about how the virus is spread. And the spreading of the virus leads about 50%, if not more, is dependent on human behavior. And that is where obviously industry, business needs to change and adjust in how it behaves. Because if not, everybody will start, I mean, obviously you have that spread and everything like that. And then if they have to shut down again, I mean, I just saw Bandung shutting down, PSBB proportional or something like that. Jakarta's been on and off. I mean, if that happens on and off and off, it's very hard for the economy to recover. So, but if we can manage our behavior in an industrial way, we might be able to pull this off where we are able to adjust with COVID-19, and yet we can still be productive. So the whole concept of this model is being productive and yet being safe. And that relates, if you look at the right angle of this chart, it relates on the safety and health protocols. But we see the safety and health protocols as beyond wearing a mask, beyond distancing, and beyond washing your hands. It's beyond that. There needs to and this will happen. I almost guarantee you by the mid of next year, if not the first quarter of next year, this will happen. And that is the issue of how you manage the protocol. And you have to manage the protocol in industry, in office work, in workspace, in marketplaces, as if you're managing a hazard. It's called infection control. It has to be managed like a hazard, fire hazard, for example. Fire hazard protocols in hotels, for example. It has to be managed like that. And therefore, you see the role of certification, you see the role of training and education, and you see a more comprehensive ecosystem involved. Currently, what you're seeing is more the issue of public health, vaccines and therapies. That's what you're seeing right now. But beyond that, you're going to have to see a change of organizational behavior in which, again, in management theory, we call this industrial relations. And in the industrial relations, you're going to have to see certifications, treating the COVID-19 virus like a fire hazard. And if you can, and that is where countries like New Zealand and Australia have been successful as of today in order to create zero community spread now. Most of these countries, obviously, you can't compare apple to oranges, right? I mean, Indonesia is a 275 million country. It's a very big country. And if you look at the death tolls of 20,000, and you compare that with many countries in Europe and in the US, which is 200,000 and almost similar population, I think we're faring very well. I mean, I don't want to say that because then I'll get criticized, but I think that, okay, you can't really be too critical of Indonesia. But beyond that, I think we're going to have to get into the industrial relations. And this is a model that we created with the School of Medicine of UGM, the Center of Public Health led by Dr. Andreasta Mailala. And we've been working on this, and this will be something with Australia. We are looking to engage deeper in, especially in the issue of infection control, and we'll see how far it goes. But in the end of the day, it's going to lead to that. And so with this note, obviously we are still positive. Indonesia as economy will continue to grow. A population of this size will continue to grow. And how fast we will grow, it depends on how we're able to manage the virus. And this last slide is a proposition from the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, working with the School of Medicine of UGM, that we feel the way forward beyond vaccine and therapy, but into a more of an industrial approach. We feel this is the way forward. Thank you very much. And I will give the floor back to Dr. Poppy. Terima kasih, Bu.
Thank you, Pak George, for again another interesting kind of presentation for today's session. And yes, it is very interesting to see how then the relations between Indonesia and Australia, it's getting stronger with the adoption of the Indonesia-Australia Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. And then we will need to see how that going to be useful and then probably benefiting for both countries in the current situations. So now we're going to the next session for the Q&A session. I really appreciate it. It's a very active participants for today. And then I see from the chat feature, we have like so many questions for the speakers. We have like 4 questions for Ibu Meza. We have like 7 questions for Pak Andre, and then we have at least 5 questions for Pak George. But before I will invite the participants to raise their questions, but I would like to inform you, Pak Andre apologized that he has to leave the forum earlier, but then he promised to address your questions later on via the committee. So I guess those who are raising questions to Pak Andre need to be more patient, and then we'll get the response later on via the committee. So I would like to invite hold on a second. I would like to invite Charles. Is there Charles here? Charles Allen?
Yeah, Bu.
Who's addressing the question to Ibu Meza. Would you like to mention your question, but briefly, please? Thank you, Charles.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Hello, Bu Rivana. I'm Charles from Philippines. So for my first question, but I would like to just put my second question into context. If I'm not mistaken, around second quarter this year, Grab Indonesia introduced its Grab by Protect services, wherein it provide plastic partitions, among other COVID prevention measures. Meanwhile, around this period, imposing portable separator was a hotly debated issue in the Philippines, my country. This idea did not sit well with concerned public, especially with several experts, because putting barrier, according to them, could put both driver and passenger safety at risk because of wind impact or issues on aerodynamics. So my question is, what made Grab Indonesia decide to include it in its Grab Bike Protect services? Was it born out by research that says putting barrier between passenger and driver could reduce COVID transmission? And also, what is the reason behind putting a premium on this service rather than making it a basic one? And for my second question about the Grab Mart video advertisement, there is this like a video, yeah, a video advertisement wherein an ibu saying, "Kalau ada yang gak ada segar, kami ganti." So basically, if the delivered vegetables or fruits are not fresh, Grab Indonesia will replace it. So what Grab do with the recalled products, and how do you prevent food waste in that sense? Thank you, Bu.
Thank you, Charles. Bu Meza, would you like to respond to the first participant, but two questions? Yes, Bu Meza, please.
Yeah, thank you, Bu Poppy. Thank you, Pak Charles, for your question. Very, very good observation, Pak, and thank you for your context of the Philippines debate as well. So, addressing the Grab separator product, it is actually one of our comprehensive Grab Protect concept. So it is only a part from a whole integrated strategy of us of increasing our safety and hygiene. And you're correct, this decision of installing separators are based on research. We also refer to many other research institutions for this suggestion, including the Control of Disease, CDC in the US, where they said that portable separators are a way to actually minimize potential of COVID separation. However, they note, and we also note, that it cannot be the only way. So that is the bold here. The bold point here is it shouldn't be the only measure that a company like Grab take for to improve its safety and hygiene. It has to be as a part of an integrated, a more holistic approach towards improving safety and hygiene, such as checking on the temperatures of the drivers, imposing SOPs on cleanliness, and using mask and everything. So it's a part of a holistic approach. And why we decided at the time when the issue was still hotly debated to just do it first, it's because of our approach that we already I shared to you in my presentation. We need to just innovate and execute based on critical mass of information, and then we execute, and then we learn from there. So the feedback loop is the one that we have to maintain. What is the response? What is the result after we adopt a strategy or an intervention? But if we wait until 100% imperfect information, it means that we are not going to learn from and doing anything, because we're not going to be doing anything. And we at this time Grab as a decacorn, we've learned that there is not going to be ever 100% perfect information. We live in an imperfect information kind of world, so we just need to do our best with the information at hand and then learn from there. So that's the approach why we took it. And your question about, the pricing, it's actually because we want to guarantee certainty. We need time to install all the separators, right? We have millions of fleets in Indonesia, so it will need time. It will need also cost for us to do it for all. But we want to guarantee for every passenger that order that Grab Protect fleet, the Protect fleet will come. So that's where the decision comes from. But still, we are still learning, and we will adopt our strategy based on the feedback loop that comes from the customers. And on the GrabMart part, you're very correct in pointing out food waste. We don't want to be part of a food waste problem. So what we have chosen is that to balance between the customer's interest to get fresh food, and then to also discipline the merchant to only send fresh goods. We've adopted, obviously, SLA for the merchants. But the way we actually replace the goods that are claimed to be unfresh is by providing voucher. So we don't take away the produce that are already with the customer. They can do as they like. They can consume it themselves. They can donate to others. But we will provide them with voucher to buy from a new merchant.
Thank you, Bu Meza, for your response. I guess Charles, Bu Meza has already responded to your concerns. Yeah. So for the next round, I would like to invite the question addressing to Pak George. I guess you have several questions, but I found that two participants ask you quite similar kind of questions regarding the omnibus law. So I would like to invite first probably Justin first. Yes, would you like to share your opinion to Pak George, please?
Hi. So, well, my question is just what among, because I saw there are a lot of like protests or like critiques against this. So I was wondering what you thought was the most valid point, and is there anything that you guys are doing, or is there anything being done about it? I mean, yes.
Thank you, Justin. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you, Justin. Should I answer this now, Dr. Poppy, or? Yes.
Yes, please. Yes.
Yes. So coming into the ratification of the Omnibus Law way back in January and February, I was in fact, I was invited by Transparency International, one of the world's biggest NGOs, on discussing this issue. And we had heads of labor organizations and various environmental organizations. And so what I would like to say is this. Yeah. First of all, the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or KADIN, is by law the partner of the government. So we do support the Indonesian government in its policies. If we disagree, we will share our disagreement. But in principle, we are a supporter of the Indonesian government. Now, but beyond that, coming into the ratification of the law, I would have to say, I think, and everybody agrees, is it perfect for everyone? It is not. It's not perfect for everyone. It's sort of a balancing act that the government has to do in order to make the Indonesian economy more competitive by streamlining regulations and also paying attention to issues that are important issues regarding, let's say, industrial relations with labor, for example, or environmental issues. And so I think from the perspective of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Indonesian government has done its best to create that balance. Yeah. So if you were to talk to a pure capitalist, you might say, they might not say it's enough moving forward, right? But if you were to talk to, let's say, a social economist, they will say it's too far moving forward. So it's that balance that had to be created. And from the context of Indonesia, we need it. We are not competitive in the past compared to our ASEAN friends. ASEAN meaning this Association of Southeast Asian Nations. We're not as competitive. Our advantage in Indonesia is we've got a big population, 275 million. With a population like that, you really can't go wrong if you do your business right. But beyond that, we're not competitive. And so what was the impediment? It was overburdening regulations, an overburdening of regulations. But so the government had to streamline it. They worked with organizations like KADIN to streamline this, but yet listening also to the other stakeholders like labor, like environment and environmentalists and whatnot. Now, I have to say though that, so because I've been part of promoting the Omnibus Law to Australia, for example, because we want to bring in investment, right? Now, but I have to say though that we do also need to come into centers of excellence like universities and have a conversation. We have to, like UGM, for example, a deeper conversation. The main proponents of the law, and even with NGOs, because everything is a dialogue, and especially in national economic recovery that we're going to face in 2021, we have to bring everybody together. Everybody, not just in Indonesia, I think globally, the whole world needs to come together. And in individual countries, in countries where you're at, I'm sure you have almost the similar problems. Your stakeholders, be it business, government, the NGOs, they all need to come together, because in order to recover, we cannot, these stakeholders cannot do it alone. It has to be together. And so if I were to answer the question, what needs to be done, I think what needs to be done is more conversations with the stakeholders, including the centers of excellence like University Gadjah. So more conversations, and try to explain it. But in a nutshell, I would say it is at equilibrium. It's at the optimum position between streamlining regulations, but also adhering to the concerns of labor and in the environment community. So that's what I can say about that. Thank you. Justine, yeah, for that very good question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Justin, for very interesting and critical questions, and Pak George for the response. I would like to go back to Bu Meza. There is another question addressing to you from Christy May. Is Christy here? Christy, where are you? Are you around?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll wait. Okay, I've got two questions for Sir George. The first one is, how did the Indonesian Chamber in Commerce help those B2B entrepreneurs? And then the second question was, what is the impact of the Australian diaspora in your country in terms of those small business entrepreneurs? Because I am personally a businesswoman, ma'am, so I am more particular with the effect of the diaspora as well.
Very good. Very good.
Yes, sir.
So should I answer this directly?
Yes, yes, please. I think, Christy, you also have a question to Bu Meza, no?
Please.
Oh, yeah. The first, yeah, thank you so much for acknowledging that. So the first question for Bu Meza is that you're talking about the Grab innovation. And then what are the struggles that you've encountered during the implementation of those innovations by Grab in the midst of this pandemic?
Okay, thank you, Christy. I think Pak George or Bu Meza, it's up to you. Would you like to respond first, or?
I think Pak George.
Pak George. Yes,
because he has two questions to address.
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Please, Pak George, time is yours.
Okay, so the first one is related to B2B, right?
Yes, sir.
The role of Chamber. Okay, so before the pandemic, okay, I'm on the national board. So the national board, we handle strategic issues, right? So if you're talking about strategic issues, for example, one issue that we're handling right now is electrical vehicle. So there is a major race around the world to become the main or one of the main electrical vehicle hubs of manufacturing. And the key to that is the batteries. And
Yes.
And Indonesia has a lot of the natural resources for that. And so what I do is and Australia has lithium, and they have design. So we're trying to connect the dots here. So you've got China, now South Korea engaging with Indonesia on the electrical vehicles, or specifically the batteries. And we are also engaging with Australia. And Australia, within the agreement of the Indonesian Economic Partnership Agreement, there is a clause that Australia will buy electrical vehicles that are produced in Indonesia. So that is what we call a leapfrog strategy. Now, those are strategic issues related to industry. But then when we have also chambers in the provincial and then city level or regency level. Now, what they do from a B2B perspective are networking, connecting people. Yeah, so Nokia, they say, connecting people. That was the tagline for Nokia. Obviously, Nokia no longer, or does it still exist? It still exists, yeah, or I'm not too sure. I used to love Nokia a lot. But that's what we do. But now, you got COVID. So what do you do with COVID? Well, you go online like what we're doing right now, and then we're trying to connect people, business to business networking. So we're doing we do networking. Every week. Yeah, we have networking on virtual every week, and many every week. At the national level, I'm doing one on the digital economy on the 15th. If you want to join, I'll give you GM the link, and you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we're talking about the digital economy as a engine for national recovery. And so we're going to be talking about that on the 15th, and then link it with the fintech, the banks and the fintech. And so that we're doing that on the 15th. But that's beyond a dialogue, that's also networking, because here's the key with networking. So we're on this platform, right? Now, if you were to ask a permission from the manager of this platform to connect with somebody else, I'm sure you can do that. And so normally we will be doing this in a ballroom. We'll have, a nice snack and a nice conversation or dialogue, and then everybody networks. Now with COVID, you can't. You have to do this. So this is what we do. we help B2B networking. That's at a more practical level. Yeah, beyond the strategic level that I was discussing, at a more practical level, we support B2B networking. Now, secondly, is your question is related to diaspora, Australian diaspora. So this is very interesting. And so I noticed that actually the Australian diaspora in Indonesia, a lot of them didn't go back to Australia. And if you notice, in March and April, there was a lot of, there were a lot of issues, and a lot of expats had to leave to come back to their country. But a lot of Australian diaspora chose to stay, and obviously with these borders going to be closed for a while, I think even 2021, I don't really see a foreseeable opening of a border that is more. I mean, it's not going to be open. This is beyond Australia, Japan, Europe. I mean, within ASEAN, it's not that easy to move around. I mean, you used to be able to just catch a plane and fly to Singapore, right? Now you have to get a visa and whatnot. So, what I'm trying to say is that actually the diaspora is going to be the spearhead of business, at least in the next 2-3 years. It could be Australian diaspora in Indonesia that connects to the Australian industrial base in Australia. It could be the Indonesian diaspora in maybe, let's say, Australia, Philippines, wherever, because they could be the spearhead of the industrial base here in Indonesia. So that's we're going to have to rely on these type of communities and networks, not just for Indonesians and the Indonesian diaspora, but from wherever you are all from. I mean, if you're from Europe, from Philippines, wherever. If you want to do business, international business, the diaspora can be an asset. Your diaspora can be an asset. And to be more specific on the Australian diaspora, most of them here in Indonesia are investors. Some of them are small investors. There's some of them are medium, and some, like ANZ Bank, Commonwealth. Those are significantly of size. But they do dedicate their resources to the development of the economy of Indonesia and the context of other countries, of other countries. So we need to learn on how to collaborate with our respective diasporas. I think, the Chinese diaspora has done very well in doing this. Indian diaspora, India, they've been very well in doing this throughout the world. And we in Indonesia are learning to do it. Philippines, I think, your diaspora, Philippine diaspora has played a major role in the development of Philippine economy. And so, so I think this is, and obviously due to COVID-19, this will be more vivid in my perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak George.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Christy. Bumeza, time is yours to respond to Christy's another question.
Yeah, Christy. So I think you're very on point. Anybody who just started a business, who's I think already the Facebook of the world, will have struggles when they implement something new, when they innovate in the face of a new situation. For us at Grab, the biggest struggle for us is because if we were to look at COVID-19 as a challenge or as an enemy, it is unclear, right? It changes all the time, just like the virus itself. It mutates. Nobody knows how it will end, when it will end. Yes, we will have a vaccine, but how it will affect the economy, how it will affect the people, will it reach the remote areas of Indonesia? Will our drivers be able to get it first before the other part of Indonesia? All questions, there is very little answer to that. So the struggle is how to make decisions in light of imperfect information. The goal is clear. The goal is to thrive and to help take care of our people in our platform. But how to make decisions in light of those information? I'm sure small businesses also face the same thing. So what we have adopted is, like I said before, we innovate. We use the information that is available to us because we want to still be data driven. However, we just try it first. What we need to make sure is that we have the feedback loop to us. how do we know if this product is good or not? How do we know if the services bring good impact or not? And how do we know that? We know that from customers' feedback. We know that from government feedback and from our data analytics. This actually create a spike, or this actually create a jump, and all that. So I think if we were to implement this, apply this to the smaller business case, what I would like to suggest is just don't be afraid. Do what you think you can do at the moment, and then just make sure you can know how it affects you. Look at your sales data. You can look at your customer survey. From that very small data, you can have the sense whether what you're doing is correct or not. If it's correct, continue it. If it's not correct, let's make it better. I think that's what I can say.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Meza, and also thank you, Christy. We only have a very limited time, 15 minutes left, but I'm going to invite another participant who apparently has also questions to Pak George and also Bu Meza. I would like to invite Katrina Shaina. Katrina, are you there? Would you like to ask your
Hello?
Okay, Katrina, yes. Please, you can ask questions to Pak George and Bu Meza. I noticed that you have the questions to both of the speakers, please.
Oh, okay. So for the first question is for the Grab presentation. I'm wondering, among those pillars that was presented, what do you think is the most challenged pillar, especially now that the Indonesia has high number of cases, just like in our country, Philippines? And for Sir George, I have two questions. First, which country would likely take more benefits in the proposed ecosystem? Because I notice that it is really a two-way relationship since it's a diaspora. Is it the Australia or the Indonesia? How will the diaspora address the people with small to medium businesses who lost their source of income?
Okay, thank you, Katrina. Bu Meza, would you like to respond to it first?
Yeah, if you're asking, now the cases is rising again, which pillar finds the most struggles? I think every pillar, because what we expect is the number is not rising, but now it's rising again, right? But for now, like if we see in Indonesia, I see in particular, there is a need to balance, right? We need to balance between the health concern and the economic concern, because the two cannot exclusively, stand on its own. So that is what we try to balance through our 4 pillars. So if we double down on health and security, it also needs to support the economic recovery of our platform and those in our platform. We don't want to sacrifice either. So we try to make a product and services and SOPs that will support those two concerns. So I think that's our approach. Even though now the case is rising, it doesn't mean that we're going to shut down everything, but we're trying to find that balance for now.
Thank you, Bu Meza. Pak George?
Yes, thank you. So the benefits of an ecosystem that was suggested in regards to, I believe, the knowledge economy ecosystem, I think both countries will benefit. Both all of the stakeholders of both countries will benefit. From the Indonesian perspective, it's part of Indonesia building our services sector. Currently, our Indonesian services sector represent 40% of our economy. To be a developed country, you need to get it up to probably 60 to 70% of the economy. So through knowledge, collaboration, and business that can trickle down to the business sector or industry, that will build our services sector and the competitiveness in the Indonesian services sector. From an Australian perspective, they will benefit also. One aspect of Indonesia is similar to the Philippines, actually. We are a production hub. Yeah. So for example, we produce software. I think the Philippines do too. We are I think the creative economy was mentioned, and one up and coming business is the animation industry. That's an up and coming sector, and we see now collaborations between the Australian and Indonesian businesses and centers of excellence in universities that are tying this up. Yeah, and so that is strategic and also beneficial for both societies and their businesses of both of the two countries. Yeah. And so, I mean, beyond that, for example, even in areas like cybersecurity, we look to capture the opportunities in building a major talent pool to serve cybersecurity needs. Yeah. Indonesia has a big, like say, 3 million students studying computer science right now. And the world needs 1 million cybersecurity analysts, even for first responders, that is lacking right now, even today. So we can be that production hub, and obviously the Australian businesses and sector could also take advantage by them creating the value add. So these things work both ways. Yeah. So that ecosystem relates to benefiting both countries and the relevant stakeholders, be it business or center of excellences and universities. So that is, I think, I would say it would be a fair model for everyone. Now, related to the diaspora, how do they address people with small, medium business? Okay, so we established an Indonesian trading house in Australia, and that is primarily to support the small and medium enterprises of Indonesia. And why we are working with our diaspora there, because our diaspora in Australia are embedded into society. So, and it's not easy. International business is not easy. I mean, you can't just produce a sambal goreng, right? And then just export it. There are various requirements that you have to fulfill. But our diaspora knows how to get those goods into the country in, say, Australia. And they even know where the market is. We're on the other side of the ocean. We might not know where a market for sambal goreng is. Sambal goreng, for our audience here, is chili. Yeah? It's Indonesian chili. Yeah? Indonesian fried chili. And you would be surprised, there is a market. I mean, it might be niche, but there is a market. And so, I'm being extreme in my example, but because I was in a dialogue that was talking about exporting sambal goreng to Australia. So that's a reality. I mean, I know a friend who is exporting bakpia to Australia. Bakpia is an Indonesian delicacy or snack. Yeah, it's a snack, and they're actually doing well in Australia. But how did they do that? Well, they built the market via the diaspora. And now they're actually developing a small factory over there. So you might be surprised what can happen when you do these type of engagements with your own diaspora. And I think even for our friends here in the Philippines, you can work with the Filipino diaspora in Indonesia, and from all over the world. I mean, wherever you're coming from, the society is global. And again, COVID does not allow travel, at least for the next year or two. So you're going to have to, I mean, that from a international business angle, that is an opportunity to look into. So thank you for that very good question.
Thank you, Pak George. I think you mentioned about sambal goreng, you mentioned about bakpia. That makes our participants who are all over the world would be very, very, sad because they're not in Jogja at this moment due to the current situation. So we're having this event online because of this kind of pandemic. Well, I guess time is already almost finished now. And I really would like to thank to Ibu Meza and Pak George and also Pak Andre earlier. They're very insightful, very interesting sharing from your own experience that I really do hope that the participants will find this very inspiring. I guess based on the previous presentations, we can learn that the current situation with the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, we shouldn't see that or we shouldn't perceive it as the kind of problems, but we should perceive it as a new opportunity for us. So that requires obviously hard work, that requires obviously collaborations, and more importantly is now we see how then we need to balance between, Bu Mezam earlier also mentioned, we need to balance between what we see as the health problem and also the economic activities. We cannot just choose it as this is either or situation. We can balance it, and we see that the world has been moving towards this kind of situations, that adjustments are needed, and then we need to innovate. So that's why I do really hope that we can get the lessons from the conversation for this afternoon's event, and then very inspiring. So please join me to give applause to Pak George and also Bu Meza to close the session this afternoon. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Bu Meza. Thank you, Pak George. I would like to return to Mas Rian Dika. The time is yours, and stay safe and stay healthy, everyone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Poppy, as a moderator for this discussion. Give applause for all speakers also. Thank you very much, Mr. Andre, Mbak Revana, and also Mr. George for sharing knowledge and information to us. We do hope that COVID-19 pandemic could end soon, and you can eat bakpia in Yogyakarta, yeah? Okay, and this is the end of our meeting for today. But before we close this agenda, we can have a photo session together, right? So everyone, for those who haven't turned on the video, please turn it on first, and the photo session will be taken for 3 times. Yeah, once again, ladies and gentlemen, before we close this agenda or before we close this session, we can have a photo session together first. So everyone, once again, for those who haven't turned on the video, please turn it on first, and the photo session will be taken for 3 times. Yeah, for the first time, 1, 2, 3. For the second times, 1, 2, 3. And for the last time, 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We remind you all participants for day 3 quiz will be posted on Google Classroom. Yeah, so you can check on Google Classroom. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of DREaM virtual program for day 3. We would like to thanks to all of the speakers, moderator, and also the enthusiasm of all participants. And don't forget to obey the health protocols to stop the spread of the COVID-19. Wash your hand often, put on your masks, and physical distancing. Stay healthy. May God take care of our health. See you on the next occasion. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you.